We moved into the house on Wrenwood Lane to escape grief. After my sister died, Mom thought a fresh start in the countryside might help. The place was old, wooden, and surrounded by wind-blown fields. Our nearest neighbor was an elderly man who lived alone, Mr. Heller. He didn't speak much. He didn't smile. He just watched, always from the same window, always silently. The first time I waved at him, he didn't move, not even a blink. Just stood there, pressed to the glass like a painting. Mom said he was harmless, said he had lived here for decades. But animals never crossed into his yard, and at night, the lights in his house flickered in strange patterns, like someone trying to communicate in code. One day, a package arrived. No return address, just our name, handwritten, but in my sister's handwriting. Inside was a small porcelain doll. It had a cracked face, one blue eye, one black, and a tiny noose tied around its neck. A note in its lap said, asterisk, she never left. Asterisk. That night, I heard footsteps in the attic. Slow, dragging, but we never stored anything up there. I grabbed a flashlight and climbed the narrow ladder. Dust choked the air. Cobwebs clung to my face. I shone the light around and found a chair, rocking, still warm, and carved into the wood my sister's name. I began to dream of Mr. Heller. In every nightmare, I was trapped in his house. The walls oozed. The windows screamed. He would sit in a chair facing the corner, whispering my name. But when I touched his shoulder, he turned around. It was my sister's face stitched to his. The next morning, I found muddy footprints on our stairs, leading from the back door to my bedroom. They were small, like a child's, but they were barefoot, and the dirt smelled sweet, not like soil, more like rot. Mom didn't believe me until she saw the doll. It had moved. It was now sitting upright on my pillow, smiling. That night, thunder shook the walls. I looked across the field, into Heller's window. For the first time, the curtain was open. He was there, standing, holding something in both hands. It was a child's dress, torn and soaked in something dark. He saw me and held it to his face and wept. I snuck into his yard. I don't know why. Curiosity? Grief? Maybe I wanted to believe he wasn't real. The grass was overgrown but dead. No insects, no sound. I peered into his back window and saw dozens of dolls, just like the one we received, all lined up. Each one had a name carved beneath it. One of them was mine. I ran, but the wind screamed louder than my thoughts. When I got home, my room was different. Photos on my wall had changed. In each one, my sister was missing, gone, and in her place stood Mr. Heller, smiling, as if he'd always been there. Mom tried to leave that night, said we were going to the city. She packed a bag. We opened the front door, and there he was, Mr. Heller, standing in the rain, eyes wide, skin pale as wax. He raised a hand and whispered, asterisk, she still lives with me. Asterisk. Mom collapsed, not from fear, from recognition. She whispered, that was the man who found your sister's body. My heart sank. She'd never told me where or how. She'd said it was an accident, but now she cried, repeating the same thing. I never told anyone. He kept her. And suddenly, the lights went out. The whole house dropped into silence. In the dark, I heard something move upstairs. Not footsteps, more like something crawling. I held Mom's hand, and then she whispered, she's back. Her eyes rolled. Her fingers twitched. She began speaking in two voices, hers and my sister's. At the same time, and from the stairwell, came the sound of a girl giggling. Low, vet, inhuman. I lit a candle. It barely helped. We barricaded ourselves in the bedroom, but something pounded on the walls. The mirror cracked, and inside it, I saw the attic again, the rocking chair, but now someone was sitting in it, a child-sized figure, holding a doll. Its face was mine. That night, I stopped dreaming. Instead, I began remembering things I wasn't supposed to know. How my sister didn't just die. She had gone to Heller's house, dared by someone. Me, I had forgotten, buried the guilt so deep it became a ghost. Now, she was back, not to haunt me, but to bring me home. The house across the street lit up. All the windows glowed blood red. The door opened on its own, and something stepped out, a shadow in the shape of a child. But its eyes were wrong, swirling, hollow. It walked to our front steps and whispered through the keyhole. Asterisk, time to come back. Asterisk. Mom held me tight, but I was already gone. I followed her, my sister, or what she'd become, into the field, through wind and ash. She didn't speak, just floated ahead of me, hair blowing against gravity. She led me to the cellar behind Heller's house. Its wooden door creaked open on its own. Inside was a staircase spiraling down into red earth, and the sound of breathing. Not one breath. Hundreds. I descended. The air thickened with rot. Bones lined the dirt walls. Not a range grown into them. And in the center, Mr. Heller, naked, emaciated, eyes sewn shut. He sat in a circle of candles, muttering names, over and over, until he said mine, then smiled. He spoke without lips moving. You called her. You opened the door. You belong to her now. And then the candles went out, one by one. Darkness swallowed the room. I felt hands all around me. Small, cold, familiar. Then, I heard my sister's voice right beside my ear. Asterisk, let's stay together this time. Asterisk. I woke up, in my bed, morning sun, birds chirping, mom cooking breakfast. Everything normal. Except the photos on the wall were different again. This time, I wasn't in them. Only her, my sister, smiling, alive, and from a mirror behind me. She watched. They say I disappeared. That mom found my bed empty, door unlocked. Police searched the woods. Neighbors whispered about Heller again, but no one dared knock. The house still stands. So does his. But now, a new doll sits in the attic window. Its face is mine, smiling. We moved into apartment 11B after Dad passed. Mom said it was temporary, just until we could breathe again. The building was old, with wallpaper that peeled like skin and vents that whispered in the night. The place smelled like dust and distant crying. But worst of all was the door across the hall. 11A, always locked, always a listening. No one had lived in 11A for years. That's what the landlord said. But some nights, I heard breathing through the wall. Not loud, shallow, like someone lying just behind the drywall. Face pressed close, breathing slow. I put my ear to it once. Heard my name, whispered backwards. One morning, I saw something. From a male slot in 11A, a single, pale finger slid through, tapping, slowly, then retreating back inside like it had never been there. When I ran to Mom, she opened the door to prove it. But the apartment was empty, except for one thing, a drawing of me, sleeping. Mom said we should move again, but that night She changed. She stood in the hallway for hours, staring at the locked door, muttering things that sounded like Dad's last words. I tried to pull her away, but her eyes rolled white, and she said, "Asterisk, he's in there. Asterisk." I checked her vents. Something was in them. Scratching, crawling. Not rats. Too slow. Too deliberate. I opened the grill and found a photograph. Old, black and white. It was Dad, standing in front of apartment 11A, with someone's hand on his shoulder. But the hand had 6 fingers. The dreams started the next night. In them, I stood in the hallway, but all the doors were gone. Just one long, pulsing corridor with 11A at the end. Every time I tried to scream, my voice came out from the vents instead, like I had become the walls. And inside 11A, someone was whispering my thoughts before I had them. Mom stopped eating. She just sat in the kitchen, smiling, staring at the wall between us and 11A. She kept saying, "It's where grief sleeps." She called it a door to peace. But I heard her crying at night, from inside her own closet, like she was practicing being gone. I asked the landlord again about 11A. He hesitated, said no one had leased it in 18 years. The last tenant was a hospice nurse. And before that, a mortician. And before that, well, records stopped. Just pages torn out, like someone erased the apartment from history. I asked to see inside. He gave me one look and said, "Asterisk, that place watches back." Asterisk. That night I woke to tapping. From my closet. It wasn't wood. It was glass. I opened the door, and there was a mirror, one I'd never seen. My reflection wasn't mine. It blinked before I did, smiled when I didn't. And behind it was the hallway to 11A. I broke the mirror, screamed. Mom ran in. She didn't ask what happened. She just said, "They know you're awake now." She pressed something into my hand, a key, old, rusted. She looked me in the eye and whispered, "You have to go in before it comes out." I stood outside 11A, key shaking in my hand. The hallway lights dimmed as if the building itself were holding its breath. When I turned the key, I felt a pulse, like the door had veins. It didn't creak open, it exhaled. And what hit me was not air, but memories. My dad's voice, crying, screaming, begging someone to take him instead. Inside was wrong. It looked like our old house. Same layout, same couch, but the walls were wet. The lights flickered in rhythm with my heartbeat. And on the couch sat a figure wrapped in blankets. Its head turned slowly, and it whispered in my father's voice, "Asterisk, why didn't you open the door sooner?" Asterisk. I ran, but every door led back to the same room. No matter how fast I moved, the couch, the dripping ceiling, and that shape always returned. And the voice kept changing, from Dad, to Mom, to mine, until it said, "Asterisk, this is where your soul was left behind." Asterisk. The floor beneath me cracked. I fell, but not into darkness, into film. Strips of old home movies ran beneath my feet. Each one played moments I never remembered, of me doing things I'd never done, hurting people, screaming at Mom, pushing my sister, and one clip of me unlocking 11A as a child. Then the screen went white, and I was outside again in the hallway. Everything quiet, too quiet. Mom was gone, so was the door to 11A. Only a blank wall remained, but carved into the plaster was my name and a message beneath it. Asterisk. See you when you forget again. Asterisk. I searched the entire building. No one remembered 11A. Not the landlord, not the tenants, not even the blueprints, which showed a missing space between 11B and the stairwell. Just empty square footage, a blind spot. But every night, I heard it, the breathing behind my wall, closer. One night, I woke up to find my bed pushed against the opposite wall, my closet wide open, and written inside it, in black wet ink, was a countdown. 3 nights left. I scrubbed it clean. Next night, 2 nights, and the scratching in the vents grew louder. The final night came. I didn't sleep. I sat by the vent, waiting, and at 3:11 a.m., it opened. A single eye peered out, mine, but cracked like porcelain. It blinked once, and I blacked out. I awoke in the hallway, but everything had changed. It was silent, frozen, not a sound, not even my own breath. I walked to where 11A used to be, and this time, the door was back, but it wasn't numbered. It simply read, "Yours." I stepped inside. No floor, no walls, just a mirror, and in the reflection, everyone I'd ever loved, crying, calling my name, but I wasn't in the mirror, because I wasn't there anymore. I was the room now. I was 11A. When I first moved into this building, everyone warned me about apartment 3C. They whispered in the elevator, crossed themselves when walking past its door, and always said the same thing. She never left. I thought they meant she was stubborn, but now I know. They meant something else. The first night, I heard it. Soft crying. Not next door, inside my walls. Low, hopeless sobs, like someone weeping into plaster. I pressed my ear to the drywall and heard fingernails, scratching, carving letters. Then a voice whispering directly into my skull. Asterisk 3C needs company. Asterisk. I asked the landlord. He paused and said, she was left behind. When I asked who she was, he slid me a faded newspaper. Headline read, asterisk, missing girl found dead in building wall. Apartment 3C sealed. Asterisk, but I live next to 3C, and it's not sealed. Someone opens it every night. One night, I stayed up, watched the peephole. At 2:46 a.m., her door creaked open. No one stepped out. Just air, heavy, thick with rot, and a single thing rolled into the hallway. A tooth. Small, fresh, still bleeding. I tried reporting it. No one believed me until I showed them the tooth. They ran tests. The results came back. Infant tooth, female, 8 years old. Same girl from the article. Same DNA. But the corpse had been buried 12 years ago. So where did the new tooth come from? I couldn't sleep. The crying grew louder every night. And then came the laughter. High-pitched, childlike, but layered, like 3 girls laughing through broken radios. I put a towel under the door. Still, it seeped in, through the vents, through the walls, through the cracks in my skull. One night, I woke up in her room, 3C, but I had never opened the door, had I? The wallpaper peeled in long strips like flesh. The carpet soaked in something thick. On the wall, drawings, dozens, crayons of a little girl with no mouth. And beside her, me. I tried to leave, but the door was gone. Only a mirror remained. I looked into it, saw myself, but with her eyes, wide, glossy, dead. I touched the glass, and my reflection didn't copy me. It smiled and began mouthing something, over and over. Asterisk stay. Asterisk. The lights exploded. Glass in my face. I stumbled backward into something soft. A crib, rocking on its own. Inside, a pile of hair. Black. Vet. Still growing. It wrapped around my wrist and pulled. I screamed, but my voice didn't come from my mouth. It echoed from the closet. I turned slowly. The door creaked open, and there she was, the girl from 3C, pale, floating, no mouth, no hands, but her eyes bled, and the sound she made wasn't a voice. It was my childhood. I blacked out. When I woke, I was in my own bed. Door locked. Lights on. Was it a dream? No, because on my nightstand was one of the crayon drawings. The girl with no mouth. And beneath it, in smeared red wax, a question written by her hand. Asterisk, are you my new voice? Asterisk. I went back to the hallway. Apartment 3C was gone. Just wall. No doorknob. No number. But the crying? It started coming from every door on the floor. Every peephole. Every outlet. As if the building itself was mourning her. That night, I lost my reflection. Mirrors stopped showing me, but they showed her, standing behind me. Closer, closer, until one night, she stepped through. No sound, just her wet, tiny feet leaving red footprints behind. I begged her, what do you want? She pointed her throat, where her mouth should be, and then to mine. I ran to the bathroom, flipped the light, and screamed. My lips were stitched. I tore the stitches out. Blood, pain, screaming. And in that scream, I heard hers. From the other side, for the first time, she wasn't crying. She was screaming because she was still alive, buried, walled in, begging someone to speak for her. The next morning, I tried to tell someone, but my voice was wrong. Too high, too small. I recorded myself, played it back. It was her, the girl from 3C, crying into the mic, begging, asterisk, please let me finish telling them what happened. Asterisk, I stopped sleeping. Every time I closed my eyes, I dreamed of walls, closing in, scraping skin, silence so deep it crushed my ears, and her, pounding from the other side, her hands bleeding, mouth open, but no one could hear her scream, except me. I gave in. I went back to 3C, or where it used to be, and I spoke aloud. I'll speak for you. The wall cracked, then split, and inside I saw her body, tiny still curled, but her eyes, they opened, and they were mine. The police came, found her remains. It made the news. 12 years missing. Finally found. They asked how I knew. I just said, she told me. But that night when I closed my eyes, I heard her again, whispering, asterisk, now it's your turn. Asterisk. Now every time I look in the mirror, I see her, just for a second, smiling, but not with my lips. And at night, when I speak, my mouth doesn't move, because she still needs a voice. And I am hers now.